Arbor Opera Theater was founded in 1999 by three singers who had finished their schooling and were looking for professional level performance opportunities. The mission of the organization was to help the emerging professional artists to bridge the gap between the academic world and the professional world.
For the first, I'd say 7 or 8 years that the company existed, that was really the focus. Just how can we provide these experiences for singers, and I think also to provide the community with an extension of the existing arts programming.
We incorporated and produced our first opera, Lucia di Lammermoor, in 2000, and have typically done an opera each June, along with chamber operas, recitals, and cabarets throughout the rest of the year.
AOT decided to do this particular adaptation of La Traviata to draw awareness to the stigma around mental illness that often results in suicides. And we were influenced by the death of Robin Williams, and also some of us had experienced suicide in our own families.
So the story has been around for a long time, and when I looked at this story and I decided that we were going to be doing this production, I really wanted to break it down and say, why is this story still relevant 163 years later? Why do audiences still like it? It has this beautiful music, but there's more to it than just the music. So when I really broke down the characters and looked at sort of the archetypes, Violetta as the victim, and Alfredo as the knight in shining armor, and the father representing society and the forces that try to keep them apart, I realized that this story wasn't so much about a courtesan and tuberculosis and death, but more about the societal stigma. So as I updated this story, I really wanted to focus on what would be a societal stigma in our current time, and as I sort of queried with people and asked them what they thought that was, many ideas came up, but the theme of mental illness kept coming up over and over again.
To tell the story in this way about something that affects so many people, depression, anxiety, not just bipolar disorder, but any sort of mental illness, it's a profound thing to have someone in your life who's affected by those, or to be affected by those things, and to share that story through this incredible music, so beautiful, but to share this in a way, I think it's going to touch a lot of people and be a really cathartic experience for both those of us in it and the audience.
I think the attraction of La Traviata is not only is it one of the most beloved operas of all time, but also it has themes that are readily transferable. So it's not just about a specific historical event or specific historical figures or something that was going on in history. It's about specific themes. Themes are more easily adapted to different time periods.
I actually knew the La Traviata story. I knew about its theme. I knew about the turmoil. I knew about Violetta's death, the stigma that kind of led to the problems that she had had with family members of someone she loved. And we needed to adapt it to the current day and age, to change the story. So that was done with the goal of making it relevant to what the National Network of Depression Centers does, which is to attack depressions and bipolar illnesses. So in this rendition, this adaptation, she has bipolar illness, and that's what we're using, the bringing together of art, music, and science to really move us forward.
The really interesting thing that I found out in working with some of the cast members is how many of them have, in their families or personally themselves, have mental illness. And it was really interesting to hear what they said. One of the cast members talked about how really emotional it was for her at rehearsals because this was so personal and this hit so close to home.
Mental illness actually runs in one side of my family. I have a grandmother who's bipolar, and her sister was schizophrenic. My mother and I both have struggled with depression on and off, anxiety. when I was younger, I actually struggled quite a bit with cutting and with self-mutilation. That's kind of hard to admit and to talk about on camera. But what better place to, to shake that for myself too than with this production. That was something that for me was a long journey.
So you have an illness that's treatable, but people are reluctant to often go get help. Why is that? Because there still is a bit of prevailing shame. We're making progress, but that stigma gets in the way. As sometimes I'm fond of saying, I don't like it, but stigma kills. And in some cases, people who don't get treated even get so much in despair that they die of suicide. So we're trying to essentially use a medium of art and music to send a signal that moves people emotionally as well as scientifically to understand better, while going into a framework of I'm going to be a voice to take these things on.
We know from brain research that music impacts another part of the brain, and that people react to music in other ways and to art than they do just to spoken text. So this is a way of really moving people at a different level than they would be moved if they went to a symposium on mental illness or they read facts on the NNDC website or something like that.
And inevitably, this and other approaches like this are the way that you cut through stigma. We've got to talk about these things.
I love opera, and when I met Sean and he first started talking about this production, I was absolutely mesmerized by the idea. I thought, oh my gosh, to bring together something that was so important to someone that I loved so much, my brother, with what ended up killing him, it's just meant to be. And in looking at the finished product, it was a very emotional performance for me, especially the first time I saw it. It really hit home, which is why I think it's so important for people to see it.
You can learn more about the Arbor Opera Theater and all the artists you saw here today on DetroitPerforms.org.